and make sure that it's still there at different times of year. It's free, or at least it became free a couple of years ago, just as we were doing this study. And the guano shows us this reddy brown stain. Now, once you've found your colonies using Landsat, we had lots of questions, people saying like, well, how do you know that they're really emperor penguin colonies? Could there be something else? But by using high resolution satellites, you can confirm this. You can request a high resolution satellite to go and take imagery of it, and then you can confirm that imagery. As we said, quick looks from quick bird images are 10 meters, so they're even better than Landsats. Once we've found it, we can download the image, 64 centimeter resolution. We decided we were going to collect all of the high resolution images of each colony in one season. So in 2009, we went around and we went on the whole coast, found all the colony locations, and got high resolution imagery for each one. I'll go on to the multivariate classification in just a moment. So this is our new distribution map that we started publishing this last year, actually, in June last year, but this is a slightly updated one. I'll be talking more about emperor penguins later in the week, if you're still here later in the week. This is a very cut down version of that. So you can see it covers the whole of Antarctica. There are 44 successful colonies, probably 47 breeding sites, one that we still things out that we haven't quite found yet by satellite. And we've increased the number of known emperor penguin colonies by about 50% using remote sensing. So that's a good result, really, from about 33 to about 47 sites. So the high resolution imagery, we're mainly using that to study the population, to try and work out what the population is, to get this baseline for future change. As you can see here, this is a quick bird image, zoomed in. You can see that this brown area here is the guano stain. Over the year, the emperor penguin colony moves downwind of this guano stain, moves a long way, and you can see the penguins there in the image. Now, in the high resolution imagery, you can actually see the individual penguins when they're spaced out. This is a few penguins marching to the coast. So they visit the coast to forage on a daily basis. So when they're spaced out, you can see them individually, but usually in the colony sites, it's harder to do. They're often grouped together. So we needed a new approach to this to try and work out how to count or at least estimate the population there. They're often mixed together in puddles, or they're stayed in guano or in shadows in this image here. So we used multivariate classification to classify the images. This is a GIS technique where you classify each pixel in the image. Say you give it a signature, you give several signatures to some pixel saying this is guano, this is penguins, this is shadow, this is snow. You tell the computer what's that, and it goes and finds out and classes all the rest of the imagery. And you can see here it's quite successful. The quick bird image is at the top there, and this is the result from the multivariate classification. So yeah, quite successful. When you extract the areas of penguins, you work out the area, and we were lucky enough to have 11 ground truthing sites from which we could derive what the relationship was between the area of penguins and the actual count on the ground. So we could then work this out and work this out for the whole of the population and every other colony. And these are preliminary results. We should be publishing this sometime, well, probably sending sometime in the next month or so, to give us the first true estimate of the emperor penguin numbers. And we think, and I've said this several times and nobody's corrected me yet, that this will be the first synoptic global population estimate of a species from space. The whole species taken in 1 year. So, that's a claim, but we're hoping that's right. So that's penguins. I said if you want to hear more about that, I'm going to talk about it on Thursday. We're actually hoping to do some more precise. These problems, again, we always come up with in Antarctica, problems with remoteness, terrain, extreme environments, access, it restricts our knowledge. there's a bias in the sampling that we've done so far, because most of the samples have been taken where access is easy, near the coast where we can get a ship to it. Inland and on more difficult terrain, we've got very little knowledge. So you'd think remote sensing would provide a really good solution for this. But, as I said, it's not very conducive to use remote sensing here, because the normal methodologies we would use would be looking for large amounts of chlorophyll. None of our plants have got large amounts of chlorophyll in them. The grass, where it occurs, has got a little bit. The mosses, well, they depend very much on how much moisture there is, and the lichens have hardly any. So it's not particularly conducive to normal remote sensing techniques. But again, we've got this problem with climate change. Or in this case, it's probably not a problem for plants. In fact, it's quite good for the plants. But there will be change. We're thinking that because Antarctica is warming so fast, there's going to be a doubling of the growing season, temperature-wise, more water, and because the glaciers are retreating, you're going to get more bare ground, so more land available for the plants to colonise. So most of the biologists are predicting large changes in Antarctic vegetation with more diverse, newer vegetation coming in, differences and much greater amounts of vegetation growing in the new areas. So our aim is, well, we thought if you've got very simple vegetation, you need a fairly simple technique to actually study it. We try lots of fancy techniques like leaf analyses and things like that. Most of our vegetation hasn't got any leaves. So we use just standard NDVI methods to see how that would work first of all. And then we've investigated medium resolution imagery to start with, and then we got better spatial coverage as time went on. So our first attempts, we actually did some ground truthing on the Leone Islands near our Rothera base. It's quite easy access, so we could get on. We knew there was some vegetation here. We walked around with the GPS to where the vegetation existed. We were really just looking at where vegetation was in this case, not what it was or how dense it was. We just walked around discrete patches of vegetation and matched that up with the satellite imagery. And lo and behold, the NDVI actually worked quite well. But having said that, if you know anything about NDVI, you'll look at these numbers here. It's very, very low. Normally you'd be looking at things at 0.6 for woodland or 0.4 for grassland or something like that. So here we've got very, very low values of NDVI. This is probably a consequence of the types of vegetation and also the mixed nature, the sparseness of vegetation. But it does actually find the vegetation very well. Now, using this and further ground truthing, and by applying some statistics, we worked out some thresholds of what was vegetated and what wasn't. And we went on and found some about 13 Landsat images, all of the right time of year, the growing season. We adjusted them for sun angle, moisture content, and we mapped out areas of vegetation on the peninsula. And this is the first, this is just about to be published. It's just in press at the moment. So the first